when you see those kind of between brackets smaller clubs coming in and staying in, that's something I really, really appreciate because your history doesn't dictate where you are. Uh, all you have to do is work, 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 and hope to be one of the best. You just can inherit your place in the first division. You have to earn it.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. We've got a really interesting episode for you this week. You know, the last couple of weeks we've been hot on the AFCON news. We've got the AFCON draw. We're excited for that. Yes, we'll be there. We'll be there in Morocco. We cannot wait for that. But we're turning our attention back to club football. I know the Champions League Confederation Cup's on a bit of a hiatus before we get into the quarterfinals. So we wanted to take some time to look at some kind of individual leagues in club football. Obviously, there's been some brilliant games across kind of African football this weekend. You know, you had Pyramids and Zamalek in Egypt, you had the big Soweto derby in South Africa, and you even had the Sheger derby in Ethiopia with St. George's and Ethiopia Buna. But right now, there seems to be one league that is really, really hot in African football, and that is the Moroccan Botola Pro. And it is kind of absolute bonkers this season. You know, we've seen some brilliant football in terms of the Champions League from Asfar. We've seen some not great football from Raja. Berkane are doing brilliantly in the Confederations Cup. But here to talk to us about the Moroccan Botola Pro and explain some of the craziness that's going on is our good friend Amine El Amri. Obviously doing great work now at 360 in Morocco, has done work for The Guardian, big shot journalist, and obviously friend of the pod. Amine, how are you doing, brother?
Hi, Ali. Thanks for the intro. I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a while that I haven't been on the pod, but I've been following and loving what you do, man.
Nah, man, always. And don't worry, listeners. If you love Amin as much as us, you'll be seeing him more and more because this is the year of Moroccan football, man. We've got WAFCON, we've got like Club World Cup with Widad there. We've got the AFCON, obviously, in Christmas. I've never been so excited for Christmas as this year coming up. Before we get into the Bertola, I mean, I just want to ask you, obviously, the draw for the CAN was this last weekend or 2 weekends ago now. Morocco have a really interesting group. Mali, Zambia, Comoros. How is things shaping up? How is Morocco preparing? What's the kind of energy ahead of the AFCON?
It's huge, man. It's huge. I mean, 11 months prior, we're so excited. I am personally so excited to finally host the AFCON. Uh, this is the first time Morocco actually got into the process of an AFCON since the beginning, meaning it has presented a bid. The bid was voted as winning, and then Morocco is preparing with the final step before the tournament, which is the draw. Although the draw took place 11 months, and we know in Africa, in hours, the whole shaping of
It's
football
crazy. Yeah.
can differ. So imagine in 11 months, but still, we are so excited, man. I think it's gonna be really, really something unseen before in Morocco.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I was even talking to some other guys. I don't even know if we've ever even had a draw this early ahead of an AFCON. So we're going to have so much time to get excited for it, to build up for it. Obviously, Morocco are just like crazy, crazy footballing country. I mean, I even remember that the WAFCON, like, I still maintain that semi-final between Morocco and Nigeria is the best atmosphere you'll ever see in women's football. Like, and I just am building up to then when it's, you know, the Atlas Lions in the final. I can't wait. I'm so excited. But we're not here to talk about that today. I mean, we're here to talk about the Botola Pro. Before we get into it, I just want to run through the league table because it kind of paints a picture. To top, RS Berkane, 46 points from 19 games, one loss, right? And they're 9 points clear of second place. RC Zemamra, yes, listener, if you've never heard of them, you're not alone. One of the big stories of the season is this kind of rural club coming up in second. Then behind them, Asfar Rabat. Fourth place, Rulani Marquez, Wydad Casablanca. And all the way down in eighth is Raja Casablanca, who obviously came third in the CAF Champions League group of death with Mamelodi Sundowns and Asfar topping it. I mean, we have to start at the top. RS Berkane, they have been in brilliant form this season. I mean, I referenced the Confederations Cup. They've won 5 and drew 1 in their group, one of a few teams that went undefeated. They thrashed Stellenbosch, not a bad side from South Africa, 5-0. They obviously got to the final of the Confederations Cup last year, but they're kind of going one better. RS Berkane. When I describe RS Berkane to people, I kind of describe them as like the Sevilla of Africa, like because they do so well in the Confederations Cup, but they never quite get into the kind of Champions League and dominate there. They don't quite get to the very top of the Botola Pro. But this year, I mean, they're pretty much already wrapped up the league. What is going
Well,
on? How have they been so
it's a
good?
sporting project that it's in the process of mutating into a champions project. Uh, what began maybe a decade ago, just a bit over, is a team that has got to the first division in 30 years, 30 plus years, and that started to, just stay in the Botola first tier, and then from there take it from there, and then take it from there, and then they started to be more on a competition in, competition out in Confederation Cup. So they were there, and every year they were at least in the semifinals. That started another process with ambitions, new ambitions. Okay, let's go seek that place in the Champions League at least. And then in that process, it is one of the best clubs in Morocco in terms of technical stability. Uh, the coach stays in an average of a season and a half, maybe 2 seasons, and that's really interesting because the main group, the core of the group, continue to thrive even though a new coach comes because they're already established. The Yusufu Dayu, the El Musawi, the Yassin Labhiri, uh, all those guys played together for like 3, 4, 5 years, and they know the club, they know the city. Berkane is a very traditional, kind of at the end of the Rif Mountains. So it's near Oujda, which is the capital of the eastern Morocco, but it's also not Oujda because uh, even the tribes and the people that live there are not really from the same origins, even though living in the same area. So it's kind of a singularity in that spot. And Berkane is also kind of a singularity in Morocco because it's a tiny, not a tiny stadium, but it's just above 12,000 seater. But Berkane has been consistent, and now they are really good. It's a complete team now because of the coming of Monir Mohamdi, the Moroccan national team second or sometimes first goalkeeper, and with the technical stability with Moain Shabani, who's here from a year now, actually just a year to the day. Yeah, it's tough. It's a long process that is now giving its fruit. I'm not surprised to see Berkane in the first place because all those that can be a threat, if I can say, are not in good shape. Norway, maybe a bit better Ice Far, but you've seen that they played together and Berkane won 2-0 and dominated the game. So they're really far from a threat, and I think they're going for all in this year. And if they have that ambition, well, it might just happen.
And I want to ask kind of, you mentioned that they kind of are kind of removed in many ways from the kind of bulk of where Moroccan football is based, kind of in that kind of along the coast, and you're thinking of like Casablanca and things like that. How much does that play into that stability, the fact that it is removed from all? Because we know Moroccan football, there's a lot of
Yeah,
room for kind of chaos, like nonsense, corruption, da 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 da. And how much of it helps Berkane that actually they're kind of removed, like you say, smaller stadium, there's less
That's
pressure, there's
that's
less
the
kind of noise
nuance.
around the club.
Uh, Less people doesn't mean less pressure, actually, because
Mm,
L'Oriental, which is the eastern part of Morocco, uh, has always been greatly connected and passionate about football. So maybe a group of 10 people there would have much more pressure because it's also a small city and you will have to face them almost every day. You will meet everybody.
mm.
Yet
You
you
can't
just
escape them.
live your life normally when you're good actually and the team is running and nobody's gonna bother you or something like that. But if you fail, I mean in terms of results or something, people will stop you and ask you what's wrong, if you need help, etc., etc. And in a friendly way. That's what's different, for example, from Casablanca, where a more numerous crowd
Mm,
would be more bold, uh, whereas in Berkane people would
mm,
usually be more gentle. But no, it's let's be honest here. Berkane is the club of Fawzi Lakshak, who is the president of the federation.
mhm,
Uh, he started that process before even being president of the federation. So the goal was to bring Berkane to make it a top tier team, and then in 10 or 12 years to compete for the championships. And that was happened. And people would think, okay, it's the president of the federation, maybe there's facilitation. But he resigned in 2017. And now somebody else is managing the club. But the process is there. Just let's be honest. But if
mm,
I can take example for somebody that is successful, why wouldn't I? So I think Berkane is going that path, and they're not recruiting for huge amounts, for huge fees. Uh, they're bringing in young, talented players from Botola, and then they have like I said, the technical stability.
And I kind of and that's what kind of strikes me when I look at the both the team but even the coaches is the kind of recruitment of RS Berkane, because I think before we even get into the players, because obviously you've got some Olympic players, you've got some under 20 champions, I think of Mohamed Lamine Kamara, players like that. But even from a coaching perspective, you think of the kind of coaches they've had in the last few years. Obviously Florent Ibenge is one of the best coaches on the continent. And then you've got Abdelhak Ben Shika, who obviously won the Confederations Cup with USM Algier, and then has been at Simba and Kabyle, top coach. And then you've got one of the kind of biggest dogs in African football, in Shabani, who's obviously won back-to-back Champions Leagues with Esperance, has done brilliant work, and is still, on the younger side of things. So there's space to grow. He's not kind of really old yet. I think he's still in his 40s. How much has he kind of been the difference in terms of taking this team from a team that is obviously, like you say, a lot of it is down to the other clubs really struggling, but how much of it is down to him? Kind of what has he changed to take them from just the kind of periphery of the very top of Moroccan football to actually walking to this title?
And you said it at the beginning. They conceded one defeat in the whole season. I mean, even in Kafka in the Confederation Cup. So that's solidity. I think he reinforced a group that has been cemented. So he's just added a layer of solidity there. And if you see Berkan, maybe it's not the best attack stats, but they have the best defense always. It always happens. It has always been the case. And but what changed is that they're more efficient this year. So that's really what happened there. Even though we could think that Mu'in Shabani, whose style is known for being above all solid and compact, uh, I think he gave Berkan the plus in the efficiency. Because if you see even the
Mm.
goal scorers, they're different. Nobody has scored more in double digits in Berkan.
Yeah, I mean,
throughout the
you
whole
see
season.
his
It's
Yusuf
everybody.
Tayo is the top scorer. I love that. Like
Exactly.
center back is your top
It's
scorer. Like,
either a set piece or a penalty
uh-huh.
kick. So you see that it's efficient,
Uh-huh.
and maybe that what has changed with Marin Shabani coming, and it took some time. It took some time, but now it's really really going good.
I want to move on to, for me, what is the biggest story of this, and that is, 9 points behind them, Renaissance Club Zemamra. I'll be honest. I mean, I don't know much about this club. I don't know about any of their players. This is kind of new territory for me. They only got promoted to the Botola a couple of years ago. Like, what is going on? How have they been so successful? What is going on with these guys? And can they keep it up? Could they maybe keep up it, staying in second, or do you think they'll drop down, below Asfar and Widad?
I think Zamemra started something like Suelem. If you see Suelem a couple of years back, they did exactly the same thing. Maybe they came up and went down and then came up again, but they kept their place in the first division, and that's something really really important. When you see clubs as historic as Tetouan or Oujda or
Mm.
Khouribga or Kaukab Marrakesh, all those great, great clubs could not maintain at some time of their history their place. And many of them now are in the second division in Ivia playing in amateur. So when you see those kind of between brackets smaller clubs coming in and staying in, that's something I really, really appreciate because your history doesn't dictate where you are. Uh, all you have to do is work, 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 and hope to be one of the best. You just can inherit your place in the first division. You have to earn it, and this is what they're doing, and they're doing it uh, similarly with young coaches from Morocco
Mm.
and young players or players that have kind of a revenge to take from football and from Botola. Maybe they were at bigger clubs and they didn't succeed. Maybe they were, injured at some time of their career and then they couldn't stay at the top. But some of them are really young, coming from the area. Zemamra is a very rural area in the Dukkala region, which is a very fertile place, and people have got um, you know uh, good agricultural uh, things going on there. So they raise kind of some money, not too much, but just enough to build a good club, decent club, and they have a really good coach. Somebody that I appreciate his work is Amin Ben Hashim, who is a former player, and yeah, he helped, for example, Tangier to come up in the first division maybe 10 years ago, something like that. He's been at Widad. He's been uh, not so successful at FUS because he lost uh, maybe 4 or 5 games, and that cost him his place
Mm.
right a couple of weeks after the beginning of Potola. So I don't count this. Uh, and yeah, he's doing really really good job. Actually, he has posted a video where he showed that some of his tactics on the set piece are inspired from Brentford because Brentford is one of the best set piece playing teams in the Premier League,
Mm.
and they scored so many goals at the beginning of the games. So
Mm.
he inspired or kind of put his strategy for a set piece uh, inspired by Brentford. So
I
that was
love that.
kind of it shows that there's a young generation of Moroccan coaches that are really astute and really trying to work on themselves to progress.
And do you think, I think that's a really good point. Do you think that the standard of coaching in Morocco has improved over the last year? Obviously, Morocco is famously where CAF has hosted a lot of their licensing courses, then the first CAF Pro license, so almost all Moroccans with, a few others like Ibenge and Pizza
Yeah,
Mosimani kind of in the mix. How much of an impact do you think that's actually had on the kind of quality of football in Morocco?
really, really important. Really important. Uh, I can see now that many of the coaches of the first division teams are between 40 and 50 age coaches.
Mm,
They're all players that I have watched a couple of years back, and
mm,
yeah, I can, for example, talk about Amin El Karma, who was at Berkane before, now is in Safi. Um, I can think of Mohammed bin Sharifa, who was uh, who was assistant to Banzarti in the 2021 Wydad campaign in the Champions League, uh, and he's now at Tetuan. Hilal Tair in Tangier also is doing a great job. Uh, the club that survived a first leg total of 2 points, or maybe 5 points, and then all
wow.
the second leg of the Botola, they maintain their place. It was like winning the Champions League that year for Tangier. But yeah, there's many uh, ex players that exploited their or used their experience with the help of having the CAF Pro and the CAF A
Mm,
diplomas available in Morocco. Yeah, and even not so much, because I still think that the quality of the game is, I'm not gonna say rubbish. I'm not gonna be harsh, but just around average. I
mm,
Especially the technical aspect of it.
mm.
There's still a lot of improvement to do. I think there are good ideas, but I think the execution is just far from what you would expect with all those uh, all what's available to train with.
I want to go from them into a club that is managed by not a Moroccan coach. Of course, Wydad Casablanca. Obviously, on the whistle, we do a lot of stuff with South African football, and there's a lot of attention on Rulani Mokoena, who kind of seen by many as kind of the African Guardiola, one of the most exciting young talents in terms of coaching. Really anywhere in the world, not just in Africa. Obviously, did so well at Sundowns. Didn't quite ever get over the line in the Champions League, but I don't think we've seen it's hard for me to think of a team that has dominated domestically as much as Sundowns did it, just in terms of every single game, the standard so high, so good. It hasn't been the easiest of transitions for Mokoena. Obviously, the team has struggled. Obviously, they had a really terrible season last season. He's kind of rebuilding a bit, and then there's been some other incidents off the pitch, well, on the pitch, in terms of his accusations about kind of racism and things like that. How is Rulani doing? How is Wydad doing? What kind of state are they in? Because especially in the context of, obviously, they're going to the Club World Cup at the end of this summer, so they kind of need to be peaking in the next 6 months. How has that project been going?
Well, I think it has been a great choice by Wydad to bring in Rolani Mokoena, because I have always advocated for, if you're not gonna take a Moroccan coach, and there are many of them,
Mm,
uh, at least take an African coach, whether it be Algerian, Tunisian, Egyptian, or Senegalese. We've had, like you said, Florent Ibenge, and Omar Sila was in, for example, in the beach soccer national team, and I think we're all winning in that
mm,
interchange of of football and culture, because obviously, being in a huge continent, we need that to just change views, and maybe I, I'm sure that something good would come up of it. And I think Rolani is adapting really fast to a huge change. I mean,
Mm.
he came from the most southern part to the most northern part of Africa. So everything changes, everything. And but uh, from what I've seen, his body language, how he speaks in the presses, uh, I think he's excited to be here and he wants to succeed. Now, all the will cannot do all the work. So you have to work. And I think the hardest part for Mokoena at his start at Wydad was implementing his philosophy. Because obviously you know that every club has a DNA and uh, every coach has a way of working. So that has to adapt between themselves. Uh, like, for example, when Barcelona was at the peak of the Tiki Taka era, and even before in the dream team of Johan Cruyff's, the team was 4-3-3. And whatever your standard might be as a coach, you're going to come to Barcelona and you're going to play 4-3-3 and then invent in that 4-3-3. So it was imposed. In Wydad, it's not quite as directive in the tactics, but the DNA of Wydad has always been a very compact, solid team that has uh, that can strike you in the blink of an eye. So that means great wings, great fullbacks, great defense, and great strikers, because you're gonna switch so fast that and it showed in every successful campaign of Wydad, especially in the Champions League, playing against the Ahlis and the Sundowns, and it has always been the Wydad strength. So why change it and have a more possession ball? And I think he's starting now to find a balance. I think he's adapting more his style to the style of Widad, and you can see that, for example, the top scorer of Widad is Mohamed Raihi. He's a great winger, and I think Rulani is now understanding that his style and the Widad DNA are not in conflict, but can cohabitate. And
Mm.
uh, and of course there is the HR, the human resources, and that's where it's more complicated, because you do mercato in the summer where maybe 4 or 5 players don't convince, and you have to change them again in the winter, and the Club World Cup is in 4 months. I think the Club World Cup is a singularity. Uh, Moroccan teams always do that. Uh, you don't expect them, and then they surprise you, and they suddenly get to the fourth quarterfinals and semifinals. So I'm not really worried about the World Cup in itself. I don't think they're gonna be ridiculous. Far, far from that. And but uh, Rulani Mokoena is a coach for the mid and long term.
Mm.
It's somebody that you want in your club to install a philosophy of work, a work ethic, to have in everybody, in every section, in the kids. Because those kind of coaches, I'm not saying uh, he's the best coach in the world or something like that. I don't judge, but there are uh, signals to greatness, and greatness cannot only come from results, especially for the coaches,
Mm.
especially for the coaches, because the coaches, uh, you either have a CEO or you have a boss. And there's the difference. You want somebody
Mm.
that stays and implement those ideas.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's an interesting appointment because, like you said, he is a mid to long term kind of appointment. Like ideally, you give him the time so that in 2, 3, 4 years he can build because we know he can build a winning machine. We know we have that in him. I guess I want to ask about the Club World Cup in terms of expectations from a Moroccan and Wydad specific perspective, because obviously, like you said, it's a strange, and obviously we're all learning what the Club World Cup is going to be like now, you know, because it's the strange thing where, yeah, it's just a one-off tournament in the summer, and we won't see it again for 4 years. And yet, in terms of its importance of, with its stature in the global game and its reputation, and also Morocco's, because
Yeah,
from a certain extent they're representing
yeah.
Morocco, and Morocco is very conscious about putting a strong foot forward, but also like financially, the amount of, I mean, we've seen that they reports that it's meant to be 50 million just for participating. That's winning the CAF Champions League 10 years in a row, pretty much. Like that kind of money, and if you get through to the next round, presumably the cash injection will be even more. Like how excited are Wydad and Moroccan fans for the Club World Cup, but also how much pressure is there on Rulani to even, I don't know, like to write off this season, but the Club World Cup is what matters. Like it doesn't matter how, what is the value in terms of the Club World Cup from the fans as well as potentially from kind of the higher ups at the club.
It's huge, man. It's huge. I think that there's still this kind of um, not worrisome, but kind of mysterious approach that you really don't know how it's gonna shape, and
Mm,
uh, how is it going to be. Is that uh, is has the draw been uh, you know fair to everybody, and those kind of things. You also see that Manchester City is having the worst single season in like 15 years or something like
mm-hmm.
that. So and Juve also is not really doing good, and
Yeah,
Alain also is not really
same,
doing
not
good. The
not doing
same.
firing. Yeah.
So yeah, I think people are excited for the tournament, of course, especially Wydad fans. They know that on international level, they still have to make that step in the Club World Cup. They
Mm,
haven't done so uh, until now, and I think they're really excited that there's gonna be again. It's gonna be crazy in the US. It's gonna be crazy, Ali. Uh, I mean, the amount of people that's gonna be there. It's gonna be a whole Qatar again experience there.
I'm so excited for
Especially
that.
if we that goes through the first
Uh-huh.
stage, and everything is gonna be possible there. So I think it's gonna be huge. I mean, people are starting to book tickets and stuff to Philly, and I think it's gonna be. There's a huge diaspora of Moroccans in the East Coast, in
Mm.
Jersey, in New York, in Boston, in Chicago, in the Midwest also. So it's gonna be a lot of people in the stadium, in the stands. I'm sure it's gonna be a crazy atmosphere.
That's what I've been telling people coming to the Club World Cup. Even like Miami against Al Ahly, I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know if Messi will be at home. I might feel like an away game for them,
yeah.
and even the same with Wydad when it comes to those
Well,
games
the
in
huge
Philly. Like,
supporters club, and you know what? I think uh, the South, the global South,
mhm,
uh, when it's abroad and it's something international, you have more fans. You have more
absolutely,
fans. I don't think the
absolutely.
curva in any Milan or in Inter or something, or Juve's curva or something. They're gonna be by the dozens. That's all. and
Yeah.
and you're gonna have, of course, you're gonna find diaspora there, etc., and clubs that have local fans. So, for
Hmm.
example, Inter have clubs, and Juve have clubs all over the world.
Yeah.
But Barca also, etc. Barca is not playing. I forgot that. Real
Yeah,
Madrid.
it's hard to keep in your mind which European country
Yeah,
clubs are
yeah,
there.
it's so huge. I think it's a bet by FIFA, and I don't know. I hope it works. We need
Yeah,
those kind of good memories.
yeah, I agree. Well, I would love to keep talking to you. There's so much more to get into the Botola in terms of as far how they're doing, as well as the absolute kind of chaos that is Raja. Like what, three presidents in however many years, four coaches this season, like absolute chaos. But we have to wrap it there. So I'm sure we'll come back for another Botola Pro kind of roundup, and particularly ahead of the CAF Champions League once Asfar and Berkane and the Confederations Cup are going. But I mean, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You're already getting me excited for the Club World Cup. Let me tell you, I cannot wait to be. I'm hopefully we'll be at that game in Philly, so I
Leave something
cannot
for the
wait for
AFCON
that.
too.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like, 2025 is such a good football year. I cannot wait. I mean, thank you so much, brother. I
Thanks,
hope you have a
Ali.
wonderful rest of your evening.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Anytime.